Scott, what would you say to agencies out there who are still selling clients on follower growth like it's the whole game?
Well, I mean, for me, follower growth is more about renting followers than obtaining actual potential leads. So we're a big fan of lead generation where we're capturing emails or text numbers and prefer that far more than collecting followers on any individual platform where we're paying to get the follower and then we have to pay again in order to reach that same follower.
I see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the High Ticket AI Systems podcast where we talk with real coaches, consultants, and agency owners about what is really helping them scale their businesses. Today, I am here with Mr. Scott Shuford, owner of FrontGate Media. Scott, it's great to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
And for the people who don't know you yet, would you mind just giving us an overview of what exactly your agency does and, who you're trying to sell to?
Yeah, so we're a full service agency that specializes in the Christian market audience. So that's a very broad audience. It's religious people of religious faith that are both Protestant or Catholic. It expands into the conservative world, the military community, and veterans. Um, and We have other subgroups within our Christian space: African American Christians, Hispanic Christians. So we're formed like an ethnic agency, basically, even though Christianity obviously is not an ethnicity. It is still a very identifiable group, and we have our own media outlets. We have somewhat of our own language and slang that is used in the market space. So basically spend all day talking to clients, whether they're for profit or nonprofit, who are trying to access Christians who are either individual consumers, church leaders or pastors, or donors to relevant causes, or families like homeschooling families and other Christian families who are looking for things for their kids or for their family as a whole.
Could you give me an example of some of the businesses that you specifically work with? I know you mentioned some are looking for donors or some are specifically trying to reach clergy members. Who are those companies and what are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, so we actually work in about 8 different industry verticals, with the eighth one being other. If you didn't fit in the first 7, then you're in other. So a lot of our client base are either general market or specifically Christian market book publishers or authors, for example. We do a lot of film and television work. So companies like Sony Affirm or uh, any film basically that's trying to reach the Christian and or family audience are potential clients. Um, the nonprofit world, we were World Vision's #1 e-media partner for many years. So we work with organizations like Advancing Native Missions and others, various causes of all kinds. They don't have to be specifically Christian causes, but we work with causes of all types, colleges and universities, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different categories that we work in. Basically, anybody who wants to reach Christians and or families is in our wheelhouse.
Okay. And when a brand comes to you and says, hey, we have X, Y, or Z product or service and we want to reach, a Christian database, what are you specifically doing as far as fulfillment to help them get the audience that they're looking for?
So it really depends on each individual client. We have every range of client, from brand new startup organizations or first time authors, first time filmmakers. There's all the way up to the largest companies in the space. So, like, for example, we could be working with an independent author like LG Nixon, who writes fiction books, or we're working for Simon and Schuster or HarperCollins. So it really depends on the client and what they need. For some clients, we start out with basic lead generation. So we would just start building their audience. For others, we have a whole media group that includes the Washington Times and Christian Post, Pray.com, Family Research Council, a lot of entertainment media. So um, we do media buying across every possible area, from radio to digital to print to out of home billboards, television, you name it. And then we have individual outlets that are part of our family that we do advertising through. But we also provide full service PR. We have a Christian podcast tour. We have a music podcast tour service, and then everything in social media. So we do, ad management within all of the social platforms, whether it's, the traditional Facebook, Instagram, Meta platforms, Twitter, X, Rumble, Truth Social. We're very active in that space. Plus, we have our own influencer group. We have our own blogger product review network. So we are truly full
Very full
service
service.
across
Yeah.
the spectrum.
Awesome. Uh, I'm curious, when a brand comes to you and says like, "Hey, we want to reach Christians," how do you push them to get more specific than that? I'd have to imagine there are, obviously, like you listed off earlier, there are tons of sub audiences in there that probably behave really differently and react differently to different messaging.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my first question when someone says, "Hey, I want to reach Christians," is, "Okay, do you want a 65-year-old man or a 13-year-old girl? What what are you looking for?" Because clearly there are very different audiences there. And so we just try to drill down into a specific definition of their best target audiences, not just the average kind of Christian label. And so we'll ask questions. We can kind of tell from the product, service, or cause who the best potential audiences are, but we like to have an idea, obviously, from them of who they think their best audience is. And in a lot of cases, folks have either not done testing yet, or they're early on in their testing, so they may not know what their best target audience is, and we're able to help them kind of move forward in that learning curve from our own experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned you work a variety of different solutions for a variety of different sized clients. So when a client comes to you, tell me a little bit more about your, I guess, onboarding process. What do you need to figure out first so that you can figure out, okay, is this going to be good for radio and TV? Is this going to be good for meta ads? How do you find out where you're going with each client?
Yeah, we have kind of three basic questions at the beginning, and that is, who do you want to reach? When do you want to reach them? And what budget are you looking to allocate toward that campaign? And from that, we can really expand into a much deeper set of questions. But if we know those three things, we've got a real good start. And we are very modular in our approach. So rather than uh, working as a retainer based agency, we really try to uh, give a marketing menu to each individual client that's tailored to that client, so that their marketing director, whoever we're talking to, can plug and play whatever programs they want from within our system, based on whatever marketing they're already doing. So if they're already managing their own meta campaigns, obviously they don't need us to do that, but there could be another 10 things they're not doing that we could do. So we do work on retainer for PR because of the nature of PR. But in most cases, we try not to work on retainer, and we have very modular solutions where, somebody can book the Christian podcast tour, and that is a flat fee structure. It's set up in advance. So it's very simple for marketing directors to plug us into their campaigns.
I see. And would you mind expanding a little more on kind of your pricing model and how you break it down for different sized clients? And I'm not very well versed in something like radio. What does that look like as far as pricing for a customer, as far as what it's going to cost them to advertise and what they're going to have to pay you to get it all done?
Yeah, so that we kind of run the spectrum there. So if it's a national radio buy, a traditional media buy, then we take the typical 15% agency fee, and we do that buy nationally and execute it uh from creative from the creative beginning to the final report at the end. But if their budget is not big enough to do a national radio buy, then we can narrow down and do a specific radio channel. For example, Worship Road Radio is the fastest growing Christian radio station in North America. It's all digital, and we have probably 10 to 15 different packages that any individual client could consider. So there's a featured package for the movie industry. There's a featured package for the book industry. So it just depends on that client, which packages are relevant, but we can scale up or down very easily.
Awesome. And would you mind helping me get a scope of the size and the magnitude of your company right now? One, how many people are actually working for the company, or is it just you and a couple other people under the hood? And then so we can kind of get an understanding of how you are, really operating the ticket sizes. What's kind of like the low end and what's kind of the larger end, and where do most people fall?
Yeah, so we have 20 team members working in various capacities, literally all over the world. And so with regard to ticket sizes, typically you kind of can't do much effectively without at least a $1,500 budget. But we manage budgets up to millions of dollars. So it really does depend on that client. When I founded the company 25 years ago, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. But when I
Congrats.
founded the company, thank you. I wanted to be able to help anybody at any level. So I kind of avoided the 80/20 rule, where you're going after the biggest companies, and that's where you're getting the majority of your revenue. I wanted us to be scalable and be able to help that individual author as much as we could help Simon and Schuster. So we really we have a lot of different options, but what I've noticed over time is that really, I mean, you can't do almost anything for less than $1,500 minimum. Um, and that's not the best place to be, but it is at least kind of a floor that can be established. But really, depending on what you're doing, you're going to want to, in any advertising or marketing scenario, you're going to want to run a multi-month campaign, probably at least 3 months. Um, so the more budget you have to run your testing, the better off you are.
Yeah, and obviously it's completely different whether it is a book or, something looking for fundraising.
Absolutely. Yeah. Trying to reach donors is a completely different campaign than trying to sell a book or some other kind of physical product. It's just, they're completely different worlds.
Yeah. And then when you have all these services pointed at, various different types of people and businesses, how do you attract clients? What are you doing to bring in clients? Do you have some type of big lead magnet that just says, hey, if you want Christian audiences in any domain, come to us? How does that work?
Yeah. So what we do for ourselves is actually what we do for our clients too. So we use several different processes. So we do Meta ads, we do Google ads. We are big fans right now of AEO and SEO, as we're training the different AI systems to include us in their answers. Uh, it's been very effective for us. So Google is great for providing a quicker close on good leads. LinkedIn, we use a lot. We do a lot of harvesting from LinkedIn. Um, and it's good for establishing relationships with the right types of contacts. Um, and then Facebook and Instagram, they're good for generating a lot of leads, but the quality level is lower for a business to business type situation like us. Um, so we'll get some good leads, but Google's a better source in terms of qualified leads. We work with events, so we sponsor a lot of events that reach marketing directors in our various industries. Um, and as I said, AEO and SEO is very important for us. Plus, we do a lot of what I would call internal outreach, where we do an email newsletter every week. We're very active on our own social content creation across YouTube, TikTok, the traditional social platforms, etc. So we do get a fair amount of referrals and definitely a lot of repeat business as well. So we definitely don't stick all our eggs in one basket. We're working hard to generate our own leads just as hard as we do for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned the sales side. Are you still the one taking most of like the sales calls?
No, actually, I worked myself out of that a long time ago.
Good.
So most of our sales calls are going to our sales team, and we have an excellent AI driven immediate response scenario. So as soon as someone hits our landing page, fills out our form, our AI system immediately starts appointment setting. So as soon as they set an appointment, the AI system's job is done, and our sales team takes over and has direct conversation. Asks a couple key questions, evaluates what the organization is trying to do, and then we manually provide a marketing menu for them to look at that's customized to what they do.
Okay. Wow. So you guys are very built out. Excellent. Um, can we kind of get back into the email list? I know that that's a big thing for you. Why do you bank so heavily on that, and where do you think other people who are running agencies kind of go wrong?
Yeah. So email, what I love about email is I own the list, right? If I build an email list, it's mine. Nobody can censor it. Nobody can take it away. If MailChimp for some reason thinks I did something they don't like, I could just take it to Constant Contact, right? Or any other, 100 email list management providers. So that's a big benefit in our world because depending on the political climate at any given time, organizations in our space maybe have a nice open gate, and other times they're getting censored and shadow banned, and they can't get any content out uh, through Meta, for example, or any of the other social platforms. Again, depending on what's going on out in the rest of the world. So, the email list, once we own an email or once our client owns an email, it's theirs. That does, other than a fixed fee for list management, there's no additional cost. Nobody can take it away from them. You actually have a hard lead. Whereas if we're generating Facebook followers or Instagram followers, and Facebook doesn't like something we posted, or they're getting pressure from an outside source to downplay certain messaging, which we've all seen in the news reporting, then we're not only are we paying Facebook and Meta to give us those people, we have to pay them again to get them to show our content to our own people. So we're in essence paying twice, and in some cases it's being ratcheted down even if we're paying a budget. So that makes, for me, having emails and using an email newsletter much safer and gives us full control. And the same with texting, although obviously you can't communicate via text as often as you can with email.
Hmm. As often, how do you mean that?
Well, like we send a different email newsletter every single week. So for our own clients, we'll email a newsletter on Tuesday and we do a resend to the non-openers on Thursday. And we'll get, probably a 50 to 65% open rate by the end of that week. And the following week, we'll have a completely different newsletter and we'll go through that process again. So, uh, with texting, we wouldn't send that same thing, in the same way. We would send it once and we wouldn't do something. We haven't traditionally done something every week just because we don't want to appear like we're, a pest on text. Um, in terms of routine communication, like texting is left uh, primarily to really urgent, super critical things, versus newsletters, which give us a little more frequency.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Jumping gears a little bit out of the technicals, can you kind of take me back to before you founded FrontGate Media? What were you doing and what kind of, walked you into the door of starting a media company?
Yeah, so I actually kind of traces all the way back to college. I went to school for marketing. I have a marketing degree, and when I got out, I moved into working in the Christian music industry in sales and marketing, and that was my kind of my first career path. I started out in telephone sales, I did field sales, and moved into sales management. I started a marketing department, kind of, rose up in my space until I was working directly under the owner of a music distributor. And I realized that, okay, well, the music lifestyle, working for record labels, working for distributors, that wasn't sustainable long term. So um, I thought I was going to get out of the music industry. I ended up sidestepping into a startup that was at that time one of the first two Christian music internet sites. And I ran that for 1 year and then we sold it to a NASDAQ company. And when we did that, I started a full service secular agency while I continued to consult for the NASDAQ company. And so my secular agency was a traditional agency. We had the traditional model where you pick your three key industries. We worked restaurants, entertainment, and banking, and got most of our clients in that space. But about 3 years into that company, I realized that my Christian market friends and colleagues, they just needed a lot of help with marketing. And so I started thinking, is there a way I could do more than just volunteer for one or two companies? And out of that, I founded this company, FrontGate Media, ran them both concurrently. So I had my general market agency and my Christian market specialized agency, ran them for 10 years and 7 years concurrently. And then I was tired because everything had grown. So I had to pick a direction, and I ended up deciding I was more passionate about my Christian market company. So I merged away my secular agency and had a great 10-year run working for companies like IHOP and Del Taco, and for America's First Credit Union and OC Teachers Credit Union and others, big Southern California based companies. But that just wasn't my passion after 10 years, and I merged it away and kept my Christian market company.
Yeah, so you kind of started this all as you saw almost like a hole in the market. You saw your friends who needed help with this, and luckily your passions kind of overlapped with their pain, it sounds like, and the rest was history.
Exactly, exactly. I got lucky. Sometimes you're lucky, right? Timing is a part of everything. And so, when I was ready to shift, the internet was this new thing for, you get a 5 to 10 year window of something being new. Like, of course, we're in the AI window right now. It's brand spanking new. Um, but I was able to kind of ride that internet wave and get unique experiences that other people didn't have, or at least very few other people relative to the workforce. So, when I came in with the internet wave, but I saw the app wave, I saw the social media wave, Now we're in the AI wave. There's when you can latch on to a trend, you end up gaining unique experience, and that can propel you forward into new things you would have never thought of. There was no career choice to go to a Christian marketing agency when I was graduating from college. It just
Right.
didn't exist out there in the way that it does now.
Yeah. Well, they say if you build it, they will come.
There's a little bit of truth to that. Yep.
Yeah. What's with all this experience that you've amassed over the years, what's something for someone who's never thought about marketing to a faith-based audience specifically, what's one thing that they get wrong?
A lot of organizations feel like they have to have a direct alignment. Like we're not a Christian company, so we can't advertise to Christians. Um, that's a ginormous fallacy. Companies like Chevy and Toyota have advertised their cars very successfully to the Christian market space. And, it would be the same as saying, well, I have to be African American to market to African Americans, or I have to be Hispanic to market to Hispanics. It's not true. If your product is applicable and there's no barrier to why that product would be relevant, then it's really just a matter of tailoring your messaging to the right target audience, right? So obviously, if I was going to advertise an African American product, I wouldn't advertise using my face, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I would have authentic African American voices, for my brand. But a lot of people think that a lot of marketing directors, they kind of discount the $1 trillion purchasing power of our audience, thinking that they have to be a religious product, and that's not the case.
That was really insightful. And you kind of dispelled some of my misconceptions about it right then and there too. How do you incorporate that into your market or into your client attraction? When people they might come and see your branding and think, oh, I have to be a Christian brand to market to this audience. How do you kind of get over that and reach the people who don't necessarily have a faith-based product or service, but they want to push it to that market because it still fits?
Yeah, so we provide a lot of case studies. We do a case study, at least one case study every single month. Um, and our goal with that is to show data on general response. And then hopefully what, different organizations will see is that they'll see themselves in our other clients, right? In our results. They'll see their audience in the case study results, and they'll realize, oh, that could be me, right? So, we really try to help people see themselves in what we're doing already, versus trying to convince them of anything.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Well, Scott, we are running short on time here, but I do want to end on a high note. What is next for FrontGate Media or just for you in general over the next 12 months as far as visions, numbers, goals? What are you looking forward to? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, we're well on our way to doubling our size this year. We've been working for the last, let's call it this year and last year. So for the last 2 years, we've been working on growth, real solid, significant growth. So we've expanded our unique product offerings. We had launched a Christian podcast tour. We've realized that the music industry needs a more specialized podcast tour. So we're in the process of launching that. Uh, We've added more media to our group. So things like Family Research Council or pray.com, or very specialized market space organizations like Faith on Film, which is a television show and a podcast. So I'm always looking for things that work, and we are good at finding things that work. So I'm excited for our growth in our streaming television division, which is advertising on streaming television, not actual streaming. We're not a streamer, but I see a lot of potential for growth in advertising success within the streaming television space. So there's a lot of different initiatives right now between creating new services, adding additional effective media outlets, and just magnifying some of the things we're already doing that are working, like the podcast tour. That's really our goal is to double.
Amazing. So there are absolutely no signs of slowing down for FrontGate Media right now.
No, not at all. I definitely see us in a heavy growth phase still. I don't see any reason we would need to or expect a slowdown, regardless of what's going on in the economy. Probably for the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. There's a lot of space for us to grow uh, from where we are today.
Amazing. Awesome, Scott. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate all the tidbits you've been throwing out, specifically for, I think I learned a lot about marketing, not even just for faith-based marketing, but you said some things that I think could help a lot of people as they look for who their clients could be versus what they think their clients should be. Um, Little shameless self-promotion. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or, get involved in any of your services?
Yeah, the best place to go is our website, which is frontgatemedia.com. So that's the single best place to go. We've got a lot of information on the site. We've got a great chat bot that can answer basic and initial questions. And then of course our contact form is the best way to reach our team.
Awesome. Scott, genuinely appreciate you getting into the weeds of all the stuff that you do. I think it's a lot of stuff that people don't typically hear. To everyone listening, that's the episode, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks so much.